Well, thank you and welcome to this very quick overview of my presentation. The research area that I'm focused on currently, this is Chad McGuire, and this is natural hazard versus natural disaster designation in the United States. Natural hazard is a term that generally refers to an event that causes damage, something that is like a flood and hurricane, a volcano eruption, or some other event that is not directly linked to human activity. Natural disaster, on the other hand, has a political designation to it. In other words, if a natural hazard, something that is non-human caused, results in harm to humans and human-related resources, then there can be a political designation in the United States that releases financial aid and other resources to deal with the impacts and effects of a natural hazard. Why the terminology matters, specifically in relationship to climate change and coastal management when we're thinking about resiliency or building out resilient policy. It's because the United States has a long history of providing assistance to those who are harmed by events such as natural hazards, so long as those events are deemed not to be caused by humans generally, and they are deemed not to be at the fault of the specific human who is seeking assistance. An example, there's been a historical recalcitrance in the United States to provide aid for economic recessions. In the 2008-2009 recession, the global recession, there was a recalcitrance in the United States and elsewhere across the world to provide financial assistance, whereas in the more recent COVID induced economic harm globally as a result of shutting down because of the global pandemic, there's been less recalcitrance to provide economic relief. And the main reason for that, there's a number of reasons, but the COVID is seen as an event outside of human control, at least the humans in most nations, for most people, whereas the economic recession brought on by financial markets and other actors is seen in 2008, 2009 was seen as directly related to human control. Now, the reason this matters is because it creates a problem for policymakers. And that problem essentially is that federal subsidies in the United States, at least for coastal disasters, and there are also subsidies that happen elsewhere in the world. Historically, those federal subsidies derive from the assumption of no fault, i.e. a natural occurrence, whereas climate change policy must internalize human fault into policies moving forward. In other words, in order for climate change to really achieve its objectives or climate change policy, we have to incorporate the human activities and the human responsibility, the human actions that are causing a lot of the hazards that we're seeing, or the at least the increasing intensity, frequency of those hazard events. And so in doing so, we put ourselves, I guess, in the position to think more like the 2008-2009 scenario rather than the more recent COVID scenario. And in order for us to really understand what that means, I've done a lot of work on this, we have to think about the effects of implicating human activity and human responsibility, and what that would mean in terms of government's responsibility for, subsidies, bailouts, assistance in future matters. So as we think about how we want to build and develop our policy structures moving forward, we really need to consider this fundamental sort of problem about how we think about providing assistance to harms that occur as a result of climate-induced natural disasters or natural hazards. So that's the essence of what I'm going over. There's a lot that goes into this that I'd be happy to talk that I can't state in under 5 minutes. So if you have questions, I'll be there during my time, and I look forward to hearing them. Thank you very much.